Okay, we now welcome back onto the show, friend of the show, David Limbrick, State MP for the Liberal Democratic Party. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Now, we'll give people an idea. So we were going to have a debate about pill testing, and especially with all the summer music festivals coming up. And we had two people booked in. It was yourself and another, and we were going to have, the pro camp and the against camp. Now, unfortunately, the against camp pulled out this morning. Some are saying running scared would be an idea. Like, I don't know if you induce terror in your opponents. Is that the kind of angle we're going for?
This happen? I don't know if I induce terror. I'd like to think I do. So.
Well, anyway, so we'll have this sort of against camp on in a future show. But David, thanks so much for joining us. So let's start with just where we're at. So what is pill testing and why are you in favour of it? Actually, no, because I'll throw a new one in there. Cancel that one. Peter, unfortunately, just learned in the show that he might be a bit too old to go to music festivals.
Oh, yeah.
So David, are you attending any music festival coming up this summer?
I went to Rainbow Serpent this year, and
There
I
you go.
might go again next year. I don't know. But
You are an inspiration.
That is the
David.
most Liberal Democratic MP.
Well, I was speaking
I've
there.
ever
So,
heard in
yeah.
my
Oh, you're
life.
speaking.
Yeah.
How old are you, David, if you don't mind me asking?
45.
So there you go.
Pete's got many years
I've got about
left.
three
There was
months.
older people than me there, quite surprising.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, we need to get Adam back in here.
Get him in now.
All right, but what is pill testing and why are you in favour of it?
Okay, so I prefer to talk about pill testing as like a pill consultation service or a pill service. So what happens is someone's at a
Pill service.
It's a service, right? So someone's at a festival and they have some pills, and what they do is they go to one of these services, and the first thing that they do is they sit down with someone and have a consultation. And for some of these people, it's the first time that they've ever talked to anyone about their drug use, and they're talking to someone about their drug use before they actually take the drugs, which is a really powerful thing. And I think what a lot of people miss is that probably this is one of the most effective parts of the pill testing process, is that they're talking with a professional or a peer worker. And so what they get told is, here are the risks about doing what you're about to do. In certain cases, they may discover, like if they're on other medications such as, antidepressants, they might get told, did you know that there could be really bad side effects of you taking this in conjunction with your antidepressants, right? And people are made aware of these things that they might not talk to their doctor about, but they might talk to one of these peer workers
And
about.
they're definitely not talking to the person that gave them that pill at the festival about,
Yeah, so
They don't provide those services, James, as far as I'm aware.
No. And so what happens after that is they take a sample of the pill or capsule or whatever the substance is. They take a small sample of that, and then they put that in a machine, which is like a mass spectrometer. So it figures out what's actually in the pill, and then what they'll do is they'll get a report from that after a few minutes, and that will say, the pill, I expected that the pill contained X substance, so they might expect it contains MDMA, and it may or may not contain MDMA in the actual pill, because of course these are produced on the black market and whatever. And so what we find is, in certain situations, they'll find that it's in fact not the thing that they thought it was in the pill, and they'll have a chance to make a decision on what to do with that. And what we found at the Groove and the Moo festival, where they ran this trial earlier this year in ACT, there was 7 pills that they identified that actually contained N-ethylpentylone, which is a completely different substance to MDMA and has quite different effects. And those people that discovered that pill contained that instead of MDMA, they threw it in the bin and they didn't take the pill because they thought the risk was too high. And that's the objective of this, is really we're talking about minimising the harm from people at festivals taking drugs through having a consultation with people and learning about some of the possible risk factors and how to maybe manage those risk factors, maybe taking a smaller dose and this sort of thing, and also trying to identify whether what's in the drug that they thought is in it, whether it actually is what they think it is, right? At no stage are the people giving them a green light to take drugs. The people are saying to the customers of this service that, if you want to reduce your risk the most, you don't take the drugs in the first place, right? But these people are going to take the drugs, so they're trying to help them make better decisions and lower their risk. And it's all about lowering harm.
Could I just jump in there? So is there more thorough data than the ACT trial? Like, is there trials overseas or something? Like, can you put a percentage on anything like that? Or
so there's services that run, it's been running in New Zealand for a few years now, and there's also services in Netherlands and a few other countries, I think. But what we find is at these festivals that there is a much lower rate of hospitalisation. So if we're looking at metrics that we judge success on this by, right, deaths is the one that everyone talks about, but it's probably not such a great metric because it's such a rare thing that it actually happens. Statistically it doesn't make a lot of sense, but a good measure of effectiveness is the number of hospitalisations that happen at events. And I think I think the difference between in the UK there was a trial, and the year that they had the trial in 2016 had a 95% reduction in hospitalisations from the year before when they didn't have any sort of those services. So there's clear evidence that there is a reduction in harm for people consuming drugs when this sort of service is available.
This might be stupid.
Yeah.
Bear with me.
Probably
but that's usually an indicator. But my thing with the pill testing trials is how many people actually come forward and offer their pills to someone that might be working for the government or might be working for the festival? Do people just go, well, what if they take it away from me, or suspicious about that?
So I think at Groove in the Moo there was under 200, but it was in the order, between 1 and 200 pills were tested overall. So clearly a number of people do it, but it also has other effects, right? When you get someone from a group, let's say they might have bought some pill and it's a certain colour and a certain brand, and then they get it tested and then they find out that it's dodgy, of course they tell all their friends, that stuff that's being sold that we bought, we shouldn't be taking that.
Yeah.
So it has wider effects beyond just the pills that are tested.
Right.
And also what happens is that when the services identify things that are dodgy, they will notify other organisations, and that's what happens in the Netherlands. They actually have a database of all the pills that they test, and they notify the authorities, so health services and police and that. And hopefully it will help the policing, if it's focused on, if they know, okay, there's some dodgy pills going around and we can focus our efforts on policing that, then that's a great outcome, right? Because
So we saw over the weekend a young person died in New South Wales from taking drugs, I think at Rainbow Serpent. New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian said, what might be okay for one person taking a tablet could be lethal for another person. Let's not pretend that pill testing would have saved these lives. What do you say to that?
Well, pill testing's not a universal panacea. It's not going to solve all of the problems around drug use. Let's be clear about that. But what we do know is that it can reduce harm in certain circumstances, right? So there's always going to be people who take, risks over and above, and maybe they're not the sort of people that are going to use pill testing services. But there clearly is a market for this type of service. That there are people out there that want to reduce their risk and minimise harm from drugs, and they will use it. Obviously, it's not going to stop all bad effects from drugs, and I don't think anyone's claiming that it will. I disagree that it wouldn't have any positive effects. Pill testing, I totally disagree with that. I think it will have some positive effects, but will it stop all hospitalisations and deaths from drugs? No, it won't.
Yeah. We're coming at you with the tough questions just to regain the spirit of the debate. But the other part, so you said in before how this isn't the government giving the okay to take pills.
Yes.
But there's still the image of someone who's backed by government law giving back a illegal pill everywhere else except this festival to someone and saying, okay, this is safe to inject. Well, not safe, but it's not tainted with the substance that's going to kill you, I guess. Isn't that in the case, the government sort of saying, okay, within this particular square of field, you can take this drug, but if you step outside the field anywhere else in Australia, it is illegal? Doesn't that create a sort of two different laws, I guess?
Yeah, look, it's certainly an exception, right? But I mean, from my point of view, if I'm looking at this from a philosophical point of view, we look at it, in liberalism and the harm principle, right? So is an action, people should be free to act unless they're causing harm to others. And if you look at the case of pill testing, are these people harming other people? No, they're not. In fact, this is a voluntary cooperation of people that are working together to reduce harm, right? So, is it a carve out of existing laws? Then yes. But is it increasing liberty and reducing harm within that sphere in which it's carved out? Absolutely it is. So have a problem with that. And people talk about, oh, is this government condoning drugs and stuff like that? Well, no, I don't think it is, because what we're doing is we're allowing people to gain more insights about their drug use and lower their harm, and gain more market information about these substances that are on the black market. I don't think it's government condoning drugs. And look, there's also this issue, and it's a fair criticism. People say, well, why should taxpayer resources be directed to this sort of thing? But if we look at the way that it runs in New Zealand, for example, it's run by a charity, right? So this is private money that's pooling together to do this. It doesn't have to be government run. Also, the Grooving the Mood tests that were run, these were also private money. That some of it was crowdsourced and individual donors and this sort of thing. There's no reason that these services can't be run through charitable or non-profit organisations.
Or the festival itself, because the last thing the festival wants is someone to OD and die at their own festival.
Absolutely. I mean, my understanding is in the Netherlands, it's actually has an effect on their insurance premium. So there's an economic thing going on there. If they have the pill service, then that's going to affect their insurance premiums, a whole bunch of other things, right? But there's also the issue of not having a pill testing service or not having these harm minimisation measures is costing taxpayers right now. So, God forbid, when someone dies from one of these pills that's dodgy, we've got emergency services costs, we've got ICU bed costs, we've got coroner's report costs, we've got all these other costs. If someone suffers a catastrophic brain injury, we've got lifetime care costs. You only need one person to suffer one of these catastrophic brain injuries and need care for the rest of their life, and it costs taxpayers millions of dollars. So I really don't buy the taxpayer argument either, because I think that there are a lot of costs that are happening right now that are costing taxpayers now. I'm quite convinced that having this sort of fairly cheap service would save taxpayers money in the long run anyway. So I don't really buy that argument either.
All right, one more question just about the political aspect of this.
Yes.
We see festival season's coming up, more and more of people are going to be harmed by drugs. Do you see pill testing coming in Australia or Victoria more specifically in the next little bit?
In the next little bit? Probably not, but there's certainly a push from a lot of angles on this to try and allow this. So I know the Greens have got a private members bill up that they're trying to get up. On the crossbench in Victorian Upper House, there is a lot of support for pill testing, as you would have seen earlier in the year, and I think that might have even grown a little bit since then. So we'll see how that goes. We're going to continue making noise about it. I think I'd like to think it's a matter of time before the government changes their minds on this. I don't want to see more people get harmed by pills at these festivals, but inevitably it will happen.
Yeah,
and we have to decide.
Going to happen this summer.
It's going to happen, and we have to decide. All right, are we going to allow measures that might reduce that harm and prevent some of that harm from happening?
Yeah, cool. All right, David Limbrick, thank you very much for joining us again on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.